Hi, I'm Chuck Marunde, exclusive buyer's agent in sunny Sequim, Washington. Today I want to share with you something I've been thinking about for a couple of decades and trying to figure out how to articulate this carefully for buyers. Now, I've written about some aspects of this in years past, but this is the first time I've put it all together in a video and tried to explain it so that it'll help buyers understand this real estate market and how to navigate it. So I've titled this video, A Buyer's Secret to the Sequim Real Estate Market. And part of this is to answer the challenge that a lot of retirees have had coming from Colorado, California, Nevada, Alaska, Hawaii, even New York State, believe it or not. And the challenge has been to not find a great home because almost everybody can eventually find the ideal home. The challenge is writing an offer that captures that home, writing it at a price and terms that gets you that home. And there's a very slim section of the market, I call it the top of the bell curve, where buyers have a heck of a time getting that ideal home they really, really want because, somebody else comes along and outbids them. And so this is a tremendous challenge, and I want to explain why this keeps happening. So let's take a look at the particulars. I've laid out 10 specific keys or secrets to this market that will really help you understand, I think, how to approach this market and how to negotiate and essentially navigate this market. So let's start with key number one. Key number one is so important, and it is this, that Sequim is two markets, not one. And that's the paradox. Here's the first key to understanding the Sequim real estate market. Sequim is not one market, it's two. Zillow shows this too. Do a search for the homes that fit the description of the 95% category over the last 3 years, and there are 2,898 homes sold. But do the same search for the homes that fit the 5% description, and only 71 homes were sold in the last 3 years. I've been writing for a decade about how Sequim slides in and out of a bifurcated market. But for the first time, I'm going to explain this in detail. 95% of the homes here are ordinary inventory. These are homes that don't check all the boxes on a checklist of what retirees want most, at least not the majority of retirees. These homes sit on the market. They get price cuts, and they make it look like a buyer's market and that buyers are in control. And they are in that market segment. But then there's the other market, the top 5% of homes. These are the truly ideal homes, and they play by an entirely different set of rules. So when one comes on the market, it often sells within days for full cash price or above list price. So the confusion comes from trying to read one market through the lens of the other. They're not the same markets. Remember this. This is a key to understanding how we have a bifurcated market here. We really have two markets, not one. Key number two. The ideal home is only 5% of the market. So what do retirees mean by ideal? After 29 years in this market, I've learned that most buyers in Sequim share a remarkably similar vision. They want a single-level home, unless everything is on the first floor, including the kitchen, the master bedroom, the laundry, and the second floor just has spare bedrooms. That would be perfectly fine. Many retirees consider that two-story home that I just described equivalent to a single-level home because they don't have to use the stairs every day. Many retirees are downsizing, so they don't want a huge home. They want to stay within 1,800 to 3,500 square feet. They also want a modern, low-maintenance home with an open floor plan and a stunning, modern kitchen. And they want a big, inviting master bedroom with a luxury master bathroom. They don't need a lot of acreage, but they want a lot that is usable, including room for raised organic vegetable beds. They also want a little privacy and a peaceful location. They like lots of natural light in their home and some kind of view from the windows, like a mountain or a water view. And here's the kicker. At any given moment, there may only be one or two of those homes on the market, or none at all. Imagine hundreds of buyers across the country sipping on their morning coffee as they browse the MLS online. That's why, when an ideal home does appear, it disappears just as fast. Key number 3. Lifestyle-driven demand trumps price factors. Most housing markets are shaped by local job growth and income levels. Sequim is different. Retirees don't move here for jobs. They move here for lifestyle. Mild weather, natural beauty, low crime, medical services, and a small-town community feel. That demand doesn't come from within Sequim. It's imported from California, Arizona, Texas, and Seattle, and so on. And imported demand behaves very differently from local demand. But don't miss this point. For retirees, price alone is not the major factor that steers their buying decision. Price may be third or fourth on their list, with the other considerations weighted heavily on their decision, which means they may compromise by offering much more than the listed price or more than its true fair market value. Only retirees moving to Sequim with cash and a determination to make this their final home would consider price one factor among other more important considerations. Buying in Sequim isn't just a financial decision, it's emotional. For many retirees, this will be their last home. It's where they'll spend the rest of their lives. That sense of permanence adds what economists call a willingness to pay premium. In other words, they'll stretch beyond the comps, beyond rational spreadsheets, because they're not buying an investment. They're buying peace of mind, comfort, and a dream they've waited decades for. Key number 4. All cash buyers filter out the masses. Here's another factor that makes the market move so fast and without mercy in this narrow market segment. Most of these buyers are cash buyers. They've just sold a home in a high-priced market like Denver or Newport. They don't need financing, and they're not concerned about appraisals. That means when they see the right home, they can outbid anyone else without blinking. Financing contingencies don't slow them down, and neither do home inspections. In the recent market frenzy, many of these buyers were not only offering $100,000 to $300,000 more than the listed price in cash, some were waiving all contingencies. For the vast majority of financially conservative retirees, that's too reckless a game for them to play. But many buyers were encouraged to play that game by their own realtors. Key number 5. Geography and permanent scarcity produce a limited inventory. Unlike other retirement hotspots, Sequim can't just build more homes to meet demand. Phoenix or Las Vegas can put up entire subdivisions overnight. I've seen that myself when I was stationed at Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas. Entire subdivisions of 100 to 200 to 300 homes going up in a matter of a couple of months. Sequim can't do this. Geography, zoning laws, and strict land use regulations mean there's a permanent cap on how many of those dream homes will ever exist. It takes years to get a plat approved in Sequim or Clallam County. And the mitigation requirements and the environmental regulations make building in Washington very costly for home builders. And because Sequim sits in a rain shadow and has a very specific climate pocket, there's only so much land that checks all the boxes. That's why the supply of ideal homes isn't just temporarily tight, it's permanently scarce. Key number 6. Retirees don't sell for at least 15 to 25 years. And here's a factor almost no one talks about. When retirees finally buy their forever home in Sequim, they don't turn around and sell it 5 years later. They stay and stay and stay. I kid you not. Most hold on to that home for 15 to 25 years, often for the rest of their lives. That means every time an ideal home sells, it's essentially removed from the market for a generation. The available supply shrinks over time, and each sale makes scarcity worse. This is why, decade after decade, Sequim's ideal homes remain so hard to find. Key number 7. Buyers are hyper-connected. The internet has eliminated time and distance. Retirees aren't browsing casually anymore. They're connected. They watch the MLS daily. They get instant alerts, and they're part of online groups and forums. The moment an ideal home hits the market, buyers across the country know about it within hours. That creates intense competition, and it's why homes sell sight unseen. The technology has accelerated the speed of demand in a way that traditional market analysis can't account for. And contracts are signed with digital signatures in a matter of minutes. Key number 8. Seasonality and timing surges. Retirees often make their moves the same time of year. Retirees often time their move around life milestones, retirement dates, Medicare eligibility, or selling their previous home. But those schedules are different for everyone. That means that retirees buy homes throughout the calendar year in the Sequim area, although springtime through fall does tend to bring more people out to visit the area and look at homes. When a small number of ready, willing, and able buyers get serious the same time of year, it creates bidding wars for the best homes in the best areas. Key number 9. Dual imbalances in supply and demand. Here's the real paradox. Both markets in Sequim are out of balance, but in opposite directions. In one segment, with 95% of the homes, supply is high and demand is low, so prices stagnate and homes sit unsold. But in the top 5% market, these homes that I'm calling at the top of the bell curve, supply is almost zero and demand is overwhelming, so homes vanish quickly and sell at a premium. Each market plays by different supply and demand rules, and when you average them together, you get chaos. You get meaningless data, statistics that don't really help you make a decision. That's why the numbers don't make sense. If you've been trying to average these two completely different markets, you undoubtedly have become frustrated. The statistical analysis you would use on one market does not work on the other. Many of my buyers find that diamond in the rough that is actually in the 95% segment of the market, a home and property that is less than perfect, needs some updating or remodeling, and is not in a prestigious community of perfect homes. To find these, you must know how to navigate the market, draft a strong offer, and do all the necessary due diligence to protect yourself. And key number 10, even the experts have misread the market. And here's something that may surprise you. It's not just buyers who are confused. Local listing agents have almost universally missed these dynamics. They don't understand the full meaning of a bifurcated market and how it works out, with supply and demand behaving differently in each of the two markets. And so this has been a real challenge for sellers trying to find listing agents who understand this. Local builders, by the way, have misjudged the highs and the lows also, missing the windows where real profits are made. And even some of the largest national home builders, like Lennar, have gotten it wrong. They're building hundreds of homes as the market slides into decline. And they've already started slashing prices and offering buyers big incentives. If the so-called experts, agents, builders, and even billion-dollar corporations can misread Sequim, is it any wonder that retirees moving here find it confusing? So what does all this mean? How does it change the way you as a buyer need to approach this market? And does it affect how much you offer, how you structure your offer, the terms of your offer, and the contingencies? Understanding these variables that bifurcate the Sequim real estate market and split it into two separate markets that have different variables and are affected by supply and demand in different ways absolutely changes the way you approach an offer you plan to make on a home. The offer will have a different strategy for the top 5% of the market than it will for the remaining 95% of the market. Understanding these two markets also helps to interpret the behavior of listing agents based on which market a home is in, along with the other variables that affect a home's sellability. Remember, if you're planning to retire in Sequim and you're looking for the home in what I call the top center of the bell curve, in other words, that 5% of the market, you're not competing against the whole market. You're competing for a tiny sliver of the market, those rare ideal homes that so many other retirees just like you also want. That's why it feels like you keep losing out, even though the statistics say it's a buyer's market. The key is to understand this market split, to recognize that each market plays by different rules, and to have a strategy ready for when the right home appears. All of this can make it harder for an out-of-state buyer to navigate this unique market, even if you have a lot of experience buying and selling homes in other markets. I cannot overemphasize the need for a knowledgeable, competent, professional, experienced, and loyal exclusive buyer's agent. Now, I know that sounds very much like a self-serving pitch by me because I see myself as that kind of buyer's agent. But considering that you will be navigating very difficult waters with a lot of unseen obstacles, I think it makes logical sense for you to find an agent who can guide you through this kind of bifurcated market. Or should I say, dual market. Anyway, listen, I hope this video and the way that I've tried to explain the bifurcated market and how it's really two markets, I hope this helps you in thinking about how you want to approach the market, as well as draft an offer on a home that you feel is your ideal home. And if it helps, let me know. Leave a positive comment, to subscribe if you would. And also, don't forget, you can always text me at 360-775-5424. If you have any questions or comments or want to talk, texting is the best way to reach out to me. Of course, you can also call me on that cell phone number if you'd like to talk. So I'd be glad to answer any questions for you. And I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video.